So these next two problems were graphing polynomial functions, and it's a little bit of work. Okay, in this first one, at least they factored it for us. So we know the zeros just by looking at that. Now I'm going to go ahead and write down here the zeros, and we're going to find the multiplicity, and then we're going to say the behavior. Behavior meaning, does it cross? Does it bounce? Okay. So the first linear factor, x minus 1, means 1 is a 0. The second one, that means 2 is a 0. And the last one, negative 1 is a 0. Now, the multiplicity goes by the exponent. So the exponent's 1. Oops, I tried to do it in green. There it goes. The exponent is 1. So there's a multiplicity of 1 on 1. And then this one has a multiplicity of 2. And this one has a multiplicity of 2. Okay, so if it's odd multiplicity, then it crosses. If it's even, then it's going to bounce. Sometimes they say touch. Okay, and we're all set to do these things. We got two more big things to do. First of all, we would like to know the end behavior. That's really important. Now, what's tricky is you have to realize from this factor, your highest term is going to be x. You're not going to get, it's just x minus 1. You're not going to get another x or an x squared or an x cubed or anything like that. You're just going to get at most an x. Here, because it's squared, your highest term is going to be x squared. Now, these coefficients are 1, so that's great. And then here, because it's squared, you're going to get another x squared. So because that's the highest you could get if you were to take x plus 1 times x plus 1. The highest degree you're going to get for that part right here would be x squared. Now, when you put those all together, if you were to multiply them all together, so you were multiplying this all out, which someday I can do that in class, it would take a lot of time, but you would get x to the 5th. Another way you can think about it is, if they're linear factors, you can just add up the exponents, right? Okay, now that might not tell you the leading coefficient, but in this case, because all the coefficients on x were 1, our leading coefficient was going to be 1. Okay, that means it's odd, and it's positive. So it's going down to the left and up to the right. That's what we want to know. That's important. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to evaluate the function. We're going to find f of 0. So you're putting in a 0, and you're going to figure out what this is. And this is, when we put in a 0, that's going to be the y-intercept. And that's handy. Okay, so we get negative 1 here. We're going to get a negative 2 squared. And here we're going to get a 1 squared. So I'm going to have negative 1 times 4 times 1, which is going to be negative 4. Okay, phew, so that's a point. 0, negative 4. That's the y-intercept. Okay, so we're going to graph all of this. And then we're going to graph this. And then we're going to have the end behavior to tell us how to draw. Okay, so I'll do it in green. The zeros are at 1, 2, kind of a tight squeeze in there, and negative 1. And then our y-intercept was at negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, down there. Okay. Now, we don't know exactly what it looks like. It's going to be a rough sketch. But because of this, I know I'm starting down. Okay, wait, I got to know when I cross. So at negative 1, I bounce. Okay, so I'm coming up here, and I'm going to bounce. I do go through that point, and then I don't really know what happens. I know I'm going to turn. So then here, I'm going to cross. And I don't really know how high up it goes. But here, I'm going to come down to the 2, and I'm going to bounce. So it looks something like that. Okay? All right. I'm going to put it in Desmos and see what it really looks like. All right. Here they don't tell us much. They do tell us the leading term, so we know it's even and we know it's positive, so it's going up and up. So we want to know the end behavior. That's going to help. But and we can plug in 0, so we can find the y-intercept. G of 0, that's going to make that 0, 0, 0, 0, so you get 3. So we're going to want to graph the point 0, 3. Okay, we'll do that. And then the other thing is, well, what are the x-intercepts? So could we find some zeros? Now, you only have your choice here is 3, and that's prime, so 1 or 3. And the choices here, like if you're doing P and Q using the rational zeros theorem, is 1. So basically, you can either have a positive 1, plus or minus 1, or plus or minus 3. Now, I didn't do this on other problems where we were looking for zeros, but that is the rational zeros theorem, and we have used that in class. So you have 4 choices. I'm going to try 1 and see if it works. It didn't work last time, but maybe this time. Bring down the 1. 1. Add. Multiply. -5. -5. 2 and -5 is -3. -3. Oh, lucky day. That one worked. Okay, so now I know a 0. And let's try -1, see if that works. Now I don't go back to the original. I could, but what I'm trying to do is get it reduced down so that I get to a quadratic, so then I'll know all the zeros. All right, hopefully. Bring down the 1, multiply, add. -2 times -1 is 2. That's going to be a -3. -3 times -1 is 3. Oh, that's nice. That one was also a 0. Okay, so now I'm down to a quadratic. I started at x to the 4th. Now I'm x cubed. Now I'm x squared. So x squared minus 2x minus 3. And that factors into x minus 3 and x plus 1. Okay, now let's talk linear factors then. The linear factors, the function factors into, you get a linear factor of x, oopsies, x minus 1 for that when 1 was a 0, and you get x plus 1 there. So I think something's repeated. The x plus 1 is repeated. Okay, so I have factors of x minus 1, x plus 1 squared, and x minus 3. And I could probably put it in a better order, but I didn't. Okay, so let's graph the zeros. They're at 1, they're at -1, and they're at 3. 1, 2, 3, right there. I do know the y-intercept was 0, 3, so I know that point. And I know the end behavior right here. Now, which one bounces? Only one of them bounces. It's the -1. It bounces at bounce at -1 because of that square. Okay, so I know I'm coming down. I'm going to bounce off that. I'm going to hit that point. I'm going to go through and through. And it looks something like that. I don't know how far down this goes. I think I might have done that at one point, but I think it goes pretty far down. But that's okay. I just was looking for the basics. Okay? All right.